You may have always believed that the moon is just another celestial body. But what if I told you that the moon is actually a spacecraft, and inside that vessel, 250 million extraterrestrial beings are living right now? A growing number of classified accounts from individuals who've worked on alien-related programs suggest that this theory may not be as far-fetched as it sounds. So what truth has been buried deep within the moon? Join us as we uncover the mystery in today's video. So fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you'll have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. In July of 1970, as the Cold War continued to escalate across the battlegrounds of science and technology, two researchers from the Soviet Academy of Sciences published a paper that left the global scientific community stunned. In an article for Sputnik magazine, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov posed a question that was as bold as it was unsettling. Was the moon truly a natural satellite? Or could it in fact be an artificial construct designed by an intelligence far beyond that of humankind? According to their description, the moon may have once been a solid celestial body, but was later hollowed out using machinery with capabilities that surpassed every known technology in human history. The molten rock and debris expelled during that process, they claimed, had formed a hardened outer shell, something akin to armor, composed of a fusion of metals and minerals, engineered to protect the structure from cosmic impacts. And somehow, by a method still beyond the grasp of modern understanding, this artificial object was placed into a stable orbit around the Earth. When the theory was first introduced, Western scientists dismissed it immediately, labeling it a ludicrous joke. Even within the Soviet Union, many prominent physicists were quick to condemn the article, calling it science fiction dressed up as academic inquiry. But as the years passed, that once laughable theory began to resurface, this time under a different light, because gradually, pieces of evidence began to emerge. And what was most unsettling of all was how eerily those findings aligned with what the two researchers had described decades earlier. In science, a theory can only survive if it is supported by evidence. And sometimes it's the most scattered pieces of data that quietly become the missing links to a larger truth. In recent years, several scientific reports have begun to confirm the presence of certain metallic elements on the surface of the moon, elements that, by all natural accounts, should not be there. Among them are names that any nuclear physicist would immediately recognize: uranium-236 and neptunium-237, two radioactive substances that are known to emerge only through artificial processes inside modern nuclear reactors. These materials have no natural origin, which means that at some point in the distant past, an advanced technology must have left its signature on the moon. Uranium-236 cannot be found in nature. It is a byproduct of uranium enrichment, a process that only occurs within highly developed industrial facilities or advanced nuclear programs. Similarly, Neptunium-237 is a radioactive isotope created when plutonium is synthesized under tightly controlled conditions. Both elements can only exist through human intervention. What has been uncovered by lunar missions such as Lunar Prospector and Clementine, initiatives carried out under the joint efforts of NASA and the US Department of Defense, has opened the door to an entirely new narrative. Beneath the barren, weather-beaten surface of the moon lies a network of tunnels, hollow chambers, and unexplored structures. Even more perplexing is the gravitational data, which reveals that the moon's mass is not concentrated deep within its core, as expected, but instead distributed heavily near the surface, as if forming a dense shell around an empty interior. This anomaly has led many researchers to revisit the once ridiculed theory proposed by Vasin and Sherbakov, that the moon is not a solid natural object, but rather an engineered construct, purposefully designed to maintain a stable orbit, its outer shell reinforced, its core hollowed. In other words, a colossal spacecraft disguised as a celestial body. And yet, despite the growing body of physical evidence that seems to support the theory proposed decades ago by the two Soviet scientists, no official space agency has ever publicly acknowledged these controversial findings. Most of the relevant data remains classified, sealed under layers of government secrecy, and what little is known has surfaced only through fragmented disclosures from former insiders or specialists who once worked within classified aerospace programs. In the mid-1990s, as the Cold War finally drew to a close and the world began shifting toward a new era of space cooperation. The United States launched a mission known as Clementine, intended to survey the moon's polar regions for the presence of water ice. But what few people knew at the time was that behind this stated objective, the Clementine mission carried a second, more discreet purpose: to conduct high-resolution imaging of the lunar surface to determine whether the moon was, in fact, being used by another presence. The first to reveal this hidden agenda was Dr. John Brandenburg, deputy manager of the Clementine mission and a scientist who had played a role in the development of multiple defense-related space programs. In a recorded interview after his retirement, Brandenburg stated plainly, "A classified part of the Clementine mission was to conduct imaging reconnaissance to determine if someone was building a base on the moon." And then he spoke of a photograph he said he would never forget. In it, he saw a linear structure stretching for miles, aligned in a strangely perfect manner, as if it had been deliberately constructed by intelligent hands. The formation bore no resemblance to any known natural feature. Brandenburg concluded, "As someone who worked in space defense, I can say with certainty, humans have never built anything like this on the moon," which leaves only one possibility: someone else is there. Beyond that, images from the Clementine mission later revealed the presence of numerous anomalous bright spots, geometric shapes, and uneven shadow patterns, suggesting the existence of freestanding structures, some potentially hundreds of meters tall, scattered near the moon's shadowed regions. Some of these formations appeared to exhibit symmetry and precise geometric proportions, details so deliberate that researchers couldn't help but take notice. However, rather than being widely published, most of these images were later altered, blurred, or quietly removed from public archives altogether. Several software engineers who had accessed the raw Clementine image databases reported the presence of manually pixel-censored regions, as if someone had gone in after the fact and intentionally erased whatever wasn't meant to be seen. On July 20th, 1969, astronaut Neil Armstrong stepped down from the Apollo 11 lunar module and spoke the words that would echo through history. "That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." But what millions watching across the globe never knew was that immediately following that historic moment, the communication link between Apollo 11 and Houston Mission Control was abruptly cut for exactly 34 seconds. A brief silence, dismissed publicly as a technical glitch. Yet over the years, scattered whispers from former NASA employees have suggested otherwise, that it wasn't a malfunction at all, but a deliberate blackout. Because what Armstrong said during those seconds was never meant to be broadcast to the public. According to a leaked off-the-record audio transcript, the dialogue during that silent window began with a shaken voice. "Houston, we're seeing massive objects. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. There are other spacecraft out here. They're lined up along the edge of the crater. They're watching us." What happened in the moments that followed has remained a subject of hushed conversations at closed-door conferences, and of occasional revelations from those who were there. Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut who followed Armstrong onto the lunar surface, later admitted in a private interview that they had seen massive craft parked not far from their position in the Sea of Tranquility. According to a communications technician who once worked inside NASA's broadcasting center, the television feed was switched to a secure channel the moment that transmission began. Ground controllers were immediately ordered to lock down the frequency, ensuring that whatever Armstrong saw would never reach public airwaves. A former space defense officer later confirmed, "We didn't cut the feed because of a technical issue. We cut it because what was being seen couldn't be allowed on television." But that wasn't the end of it. Footage captured by a 360-degree camera mounted on the lunar module reportedly showed the movement of symmetrical objects gliding along the edge of the crater's rim. Several reels of film and still photographs from Apollo 11's archive were subsequently classified as top secret and quietly disappeared from all national image repositories. In April of 1997, at a closed event attended by independent researchers, Armstrong is believed to have spoken about that encounter with non-human entities. While the full extent of that conversation remains unknown, one new question now lingers. How much of the truth has been hidden from us since the moment humanity first set foot on the moon? According to revelations made by Carl Wolf, a former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer who had worked at NATO's Supreme Headquarters, and several European military analysis units. More than 40 film reels and thousands of individual photographs from the Apollo missions were either erased, altered, or mysteriously disappeared under suspicious circumstances. These reels did more than just document humanity's historic presence on the moon. They inadvertently captured images that no one in government ever wanted the public to see. Wolf, who had direct access to raw satellite imagery at Langley Air Force Base, recalled seeing enormous geometric structures scattered across the lunar surface. When he asked a colleague in NASA's imaging division what they were, he was met with a tense stare and a curt response. "You didn't see anything. Forget this ever happened." Wolf wasn't the only one. Ken Johnston, a data and image archivist who had worked directly within the Apollo program at Johnson Space Center, also confirmed that he had been ordered to destroy the original photographic negatives taken by astronauts on the moon. But instead of complying completely, Johnston quietly saved a small portion. Years later, he made them public, revealing photographs of strange, anomalous structures near the very sites where astronauts had landed. According to an internal 2006 investigation conducted by NASA itself, more than 700 magnetic tapes from the Apollo missions were officially declared missing, including the original broadcast footage from Apollo 11. The loss was described as unfortunate, yet officials denied that it had been intentional. But for an agency of NASA's size, with thousands of personnel dedicated to safeguarding archival materials, the idea that hundreds of reels documenting one of humanity's greatest achievements could simply vanish is something the public finds difficult to accept. In the world of intelligence, where every word is measured with precision, one former CIA pilot made a statement that shook the foundation of UFO research and challenged everything we thought we knew about the moon. There are currently about 250 million extraterrestrial beings residing within the moon. That single sentence didn't just send waves through the UFO research community. It forced even the most skeptical minds to reconsider whether the moon was ever just a barren celestial body. Because if it were true, then for as long as humans have looked up at the sky, we have been living under the watchful eye of a civilization that does not belong to Earth. John Lear, a former CIA pilot who flew for major airlines, worked on classified government programs, and was the son of the founder of the famed Learjet Corporation, described in his testimony an immense network of underground cities beneath the lunar surface. He spoke of non-human structures, biological laboratories, and species never before known to mankind. According to him, some of these species, particularly reptilian entities and small humanoid figures, were the very same beings long rumored to be behind abduction cases, human experimentation, and unexplained phenomena that had baffled the American press for decades. Lear went further, claiming that these interior lunar structures cannot be detected by the naked eye or through conventional imaging, because they are cloaked by advanced holographic projection or even energy-based force fields that do not reflect light. Technologies, he said, that far surpass anything known to human science. According to him, this is precisely why probes, telescopes, and modern satellite imagery appear to detect nothing unusual. Even more unsettling was the fact that much of what Lear revealed eerily aligned with independent reports from a wide array of other sources, including former NASA engineers, space defense officers, and remote sensing specialists. One of the most compelling eyewitnesses was a former officer in the United States Air Force who had served at Edwards Air Force Base in California, a facility long known as a hub for testing America's most secretive aerospace technologies. According to his account, one night during the 1980s, a disc-shaped object descended silently onto the runway. It emitted no sound, no dust, and when its hatch slowly opened, he saw with his own eyes 3 small beings, slender in build, moving with a swift, weightless grace, as if gravity itself held no sway over them. Throughout his decades of service in military aviation, he claimed to have witnessed these entities on multiple occasions. When taken alongside the previous accounts and the many similar, though unofficial reports collected over the past half-century, a pattern begins to emerge. It suggests a deep and long-standing connection between the UFO phenomena observed on Earth and the presence of something else on the moon. It may be that the moon is not just a place of extraterrestrial habitation, but rather a command center, quietly orchestrating non-human activity in and around our planet. And perhaps the most unsettling part is not that extraterrestrials are up there, but that they have been there for a very long time, watching us, studying us, and possibly waiting for something from us. So then the question becomes, what is really happening on the moon? You may not believe every detail that was just told, and perhaps the theories about extraterrestrial beings and hidden structures beneath the moon still feel too far-fetched to accept. But if something in this story made you pause, even for a moment, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next journey into the unknown. We'll see you in the next mystery.